Still Poddable, still Poddable. The Boston Celtics, still Poddable, still Poddable. Oh yeah. Still Poddable, still Poddable. The Boston Celtics, still Poddable, still Poddable. Banner 18. J. King and Packard in the B-Roll. Still Poddable, still Poddable. The Jay-Z White in the catalog. Still Poddable, still Poddable. Kids are legends to go. Still Poddable, still Poddable, still Poddable. The Boston Celtics, still Poddable, still Poddable. Oh yeah.
I just had to go to a bathroom.
Welcome back to Still Poddable, the best Celtics podcast here on Al Gore's internet. I am Sam Jam Packard, joined by Jay King from The Athletic, as well as part-time producer, full-time ombudsman, Sean Gauthier. And this is the free version of Still Poddable. We are a daily Celtics podcast, Monday through Friday. And if you want that daily content, go to patreon.com/stillpoddable. But if you want that free weekly show, we are here for you on the CLNS YouTube page. You can find us there. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks and the Game Time app. Use promo code CLNS if you want to save money with those two fine phone applications. Now, we got a mailbag for you. We got a doozy of a mailbag, a real doozy of a mailbag.
Before we get to the mailbag, you got to do a better job making your bed if you're going to have your bed in the background of this show.
What's wrong with my bed?
Extremely wrinkly.
This isn't the military. I don't got to keep it high and tight. Forrest Gump's not checking in.
I mean,
drill sergeant.
There are clothes.
I can't keep clothes on my own bed.
It's the belt that's still in the jeans that's really doing it for
You take your belt out of your jeans every time you take off your pants?
Yeah.
No, I just don't keep my
I don't
jeans
wear belts though
in the background.
because
This guy doesn't wear a belt, and he's criticizing me about a bed.
I'm just saying it's a bit sloppy to have in the background of the podcast. What kind of pants are you wearing? Shorts are you wearing? There you go. See, that looks so much better now.
It does look so much better.
It looks so much better now. Like, how are you living with yourself before? Now it just looks infinitely better.
Well, thank you for the feedback. I guess this is a daily improvement podcast. I guess this is holding me accountable. Thanks. Turn your camera around. Let's see your room.
I'd rather not.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. Before we get into a mailbag, a doozy of a mailbag, like I was saying, thank you for, publicly embarrassing me on the free episode. At least keep it in the family.
You publicly embarrassed yourself. No
one was paying attention to that.
I just helped you out.
All right. Jason Tatum was on Jimmy Fallon last night dressed like Fidel Castro. Your thoughts?
Dressed like who?
He looked like Fidel Castro. Did you not see?
I saw Tatum. I didn't see the.
He looked like it was
online comparisons. Were people comparing him online?
Yeah, it was directly from Havana, 1958. It was a kind of direct comparison.
The communist Celtics fan accounts were losing their minds. They were stoked about the outfit. So I think for that reason alone, if Weird Celtics Twitter's in, I'm in too.
It's too bad he wasn't in on the joke. It'd be really funny if he was like, you know what? Those communist Celtics accounts will really love this.
I mean, maybe he was. Maybe Jason Tatum, he talks about, he was asked about not having aura, and he was like, fuck that, it doesn't matter. Then he predicted himself to win the MVP, which Kendrick Perkins called selfish.
Who else was he supposed to say? Did Kendrick Perkins actually call that selfish?
Yeah, he had a whole segment. It was like, word of the day is selfish. He should have picked Jokic, or I would have picked, my pick's going to be Giannis. He should have picked Giannis if he was being honest.
You think Giannis is going to win MVP?
Yeah, I think people are sleeping on Giannis this year.
I think Luka should be the front runner because obviously his stats are going to be ridiculous. His team just went to the finals, and he has all the motivation of losing and kind of getting embarrassed, humiliated a little bit because he wasn't in good enough shape in the finals.
Yeah, but think of all the help he has because Klay Thompson's there now. You can't win an MVP when you have such a good team around you. That's what we learned about Jason Tatum.
So you thought Tatum deserved to win the MVP this past season?
No. Well, I was just being an asshole.
Okay, so what are the chances of Jason Tatum winning MVP this year?
7%. I don't think he can do it with this roster. I think the only way Jason Tatum wins MVP if Jaylen Brown plays less than like 60 games.
But Porzingis is going to be gone for a significant period of time.
Matter. He has Jaylen Brown, Derek White, and he has Jaylen Brown as a second start, and then the best defensive backcourt in the league as the next guys beneath that. I just think he has too much help. It's not a singular talent. Unless they win just the same amount of games that Andy averages over 30 points, which I just don't really see that happening because that's not how the offense works. It's not enough. Like he just would have to shoot. If he goes 50, 40, 90 and they still win 65 games, then I can consider him MVP. I just don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, that sounds about right. He hasn't been quite as good as the top tier guys. He's been as close as it gets. He's been more reliable on a day-to-day basis because he almost never misses games. He plays a ton of minutes. He's been first team All-NBA 3 straight seasons now, partly because he's just more dependable than most stars in the league. But to win MVP, he would have to level up, and you're probably right. Like for that to happen, it might take some bad luck for the Celtics.
If the MVP rewarded unselfish team chemistry play, then I think Tatum has a chance. And I think that's one of Tatum's best skills. And I'm so Joe Mazzulla pilled that I fully bought into defining success in different ways. But if the MVP award doesn't listen to Joe Mazzulla and doesn't define success in sacrificing for the team, not taking all of the shots, not being the star player, you're not rewarded in the eyes of MVP voters. Tim Bontemps is not calling you up, and people aren't celebrating that. And so I just don't think the things that make Tatum great are not going to be rewarded on the national kind of level.
And I remember we were talking about last season, we were talking about Packard, you kept bringing up best player on the best team and how that just doesn't matter anymore. But part of that too, I feel is that the expectations for Jason Tatum are so high that being the best player in the best team for him, in terms of narrative, right? For MVP, it just doesn't make sense because your expectations for him are already so great that he's not really going to be able to reach that, like you said, on an offense like this one.
What if he leads a revolution in a Latin American country, a la Fidel Castro? Now, some people are saying Fidel didn't even lead that revolution; it was all Raul, but not me. Couldn't be me making that claim. Before we get to the mailbag, I like how uncomfortable Jay is as soon as I get into historical liberation talk.
Yeah,
got nothing.
I don't know much about that.
I don't know much about that. Second Forrest Gump reference on the podcast. Sean, you are the host of the Here Come the Sun podcast following the Connecticut Sun of the W. I got to say, I don't follow the W, but I wanted to give you a chance to give us an update on just how the pod going and how the Sun are doing this year. Are they good? Are they going to win? When do the playoffs start?
Yeah, all good questions. First of all, yeah, they're good.
Nice.
Sun are great. They started off with a historic start to the season. I think they won 9 or 12 straight games to start the season. They've taken a dip since then. They just fell down to the third place in the standings. In the W for the playoffs, they don't do East and West. They just kind of merge it together, so the conferences kind of don't matter in that sense. So they're in third place right now, but that does put them kind of in the best spot because if all goes to plan, they don't have to face New York or Las Vegas until the final. So definitely the side of the bracket you want to be on. But yeah, things are good in Sunland. They had a midseason pickup. Marina Mabry, she's been hitting a ton of threes. She's shooting 47% in the
Is
games.
she the Sam Hauser? Would you say?
Yeah, she's the Sam Hauser but on her last team in Chicago, she was like the primary ball handler on a team where they wanted her to be a facilitator, and she's just a knockdown shooter. And so she now gets to like be back in that role.
Imagine if someone tried to turn Hauser into a on-ball creator. I kind of want to see that happen now.
That's kind of what was happening to her.
I never thought about that before. But
and also, so it's like the Chicago was trying to make Mabry like one of the vets on that team in like her third year in the league, and so the fit was terrible. It was like it's one of the only like mid-season trades that has happened in the W in the past like 5 years or something. Like there's not usually mid-season trades in that league. But she requested the trade.
The GMs have to step it up. What are you doing during the season?
It's like it's a roster spot issue and a salary cap issue.
Okay,
mostly, but
maybe the owners need to switch it up. And
they need more teams.
The CBA a little bit.
More teams is definitely going to help. They've got a couple more coming in the next 2 years, so that'll be good. But yeah, and then obviously the Sun played a game in Boston.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that.
Garden.
That looked absolutely electric. What was it like to be in the TD Garden after the what was the last time you were in there? Was probably Game 5 of the finals.
Yeah. It was nuts. It was like they managed to create a really great. They were playing the LA Sparks, so they managed to create a really great kind of beat LA vibe. Even though the Sparks are like below 500 and not a great team right now, you still had all the energy. The game was really close and like it was like everything came down to defense. Alyssa Thomas, who's one of the stars of the Sun, she always says that like she feels like the Sun and the Celtics are playing in a similar way right now, where it's like defensive minded, a lot of sharing the ball, team basketball.
It's easy to say that after the Celtics win the championship. You say, yeah, I feel like we're playing like the best team in the NBA, but that's just an outsider's perspective.
Fair.
They play
but it's like ball? Well, I mean, like kind of like the way that they won this game, it was super close down the stretch. There's like 2 minutes left, and it's Brianna Jones pulling a Marcus Smart and diving on a loose ball, forcing a turnover, a charge drawn with like 45 seconds left in the game. It was that electric defense stuff. Yeah, it was a good time. And just the house was packed. It was loud in there. The players were talking about how much they loved being there. So yeah, it was a good time.
See, that's a problem with starting a franchise in Connecticut because it's a less than state. And so I think we need to get the Sun to Boston, maybe call them the New England Sun. These are just ideas from an outsider who doesn't deserve to have these opinions, but it's my podcast, so I'm going to say them. If you guys want more Sun talk, more coverage of the W, subscribe today to Here Come the Sun podcast. Sean is the host. And support our guy, Sean.
Let's take a break here to hear from our sponsor, Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. It's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. And Prize Picks is the only real money daily fantasy platform with an injury insurance policy, which I think is very useful so that your lineups stay in play even if one of your players get injured. If your player leaves in the first half and doesn't return, your picks are still live. I know personally with Prize Picks, I'll be looking at the NFL season here. Jacoby Brissett is going to be the quarterback for the Patriots, so I'll be looking what his passing yards are out of the gate. Probably will take the under on that one. So download the Prize Picks app today and use the code CLNS and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code CLNS on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks, run your game.
You guys ready for a mailbag?
I'm ready.
First question from a man, a legend around these parts, a man we haven't heard from in a while. One Joshua B.
What do you think he does when he's not just invested in our podcast?
I don't know. I feel like he's scheming up ways to do more in the offseason. I feel like he maybe has a cork board full of plans, but that's just me. Maybe he's connecting the dots.
Josh B is a legend.
He asks, why does Brian Windhorst hate the Celtics? And before you say he doesn't, or you don't know why, is there anything the Celtics could do to flip the national media anti-Celtics bias, or are we just doomed? Why does your boy Windy hate the Celtics, Jay?
So Windy doesn't hate anybody. Windy's just a happy man. He's such a happy guy. He just spreads joy and tells great stories.
Great stories.
I would guess he's saying this because Windy said basically like it's harder when you come off a championship, and even if Celtics are really good again, it won't be the same. I think it's true. You look around the NBA, even the teams that win again and repeat, there's just like attrition. It's like doing it takes so much out of you that doing it again is just even harder. And I think we saw it with the Warriors, kind of the stages of like that was probably the best example of just like the stages of winning, how it gets progressively harder. It was like that first year, they just destroyed everyone. No one, maybe in NBA history, was touching that team.
The second year, they destroyed people more.
No, the first year was when they really destroyed people. That's when they went
73 games the second year.
No, I mean once they got Durant. Once they got Durant, it was like that first year was just like smooth sailing, and they destroyed everybody. Second year, they were still much better than everybody, but had to like come back against the Rockets, and then they had to like it was just a much tougher run. And then the third year, obviously, everybody got hurt. They lost in the finals. And it's just like the physical toll, the mental toll. Kevin Durant ended up leaving because partly because he and Draymond Green had a falling out. And so everything was on display for the world to see. It's just like, it's hard. It's hard to stay at that level physically. It's hard to continue to be committed to the right things and stay within the team concept.
Is it easy? Follow me on this one. We mentioned the 73-win Warriors. They came out and won, like the first 29 games of that season? They were absolutely on fire after winning their first championship. They were incredibly locked in. They had a crazy close game against the Celtics, who almost beat them to ruin that winning streak. And I think they lost to the Pistons the next night. I think, Jay, you're talking about being deeper in the playoffs. How much harder is that to, like, when the target's on your back and teams have get better? But is there a chance the Celtics come back and have like, we've unlocked this, we've figured it out, no one can really fuck with us because we just went through one of the more dominant seasons of recent history?
Yeah, there's definitely that chance.
Are you saying everything is a possibility, from struggling to thriving?
Yes. And also it takes people sometimes like a little while to catch up and a little while to believe. But the Celtics, what they did this past season, every indicator that we have, from their record to their net rating to their playoff record to their playoff net rating, suggests like this could be a historical team. And I think it's easier to believe it now. And maybe they're just a historical team, and maybe they will rattle off 2 or 3 championships in a row. Who knows?
And I don't, to answer Joshua B's question directly, I don't think there's anti-Celtics bias. I think the Celtics were not the most exciting of teams last year in terms of things that are going to lead NBA today. One, they're not the Warriors, they're not the Lakers. I think there's definitely a pro Warriors Lakers bias in terms of like those are the teams that those like national podcasts are going to talk about. But I genuinely just don't think there's an anti-Celtics bias. I think that Celtics fans, as is their right, get a little bit upset when any like time they're not national, people aren't fawning over the Celtics. But if I remember correctly, I feel like, and I listen to the Hoop Collective with Timmy Goodtimes, Tim Bontemps all the time. I feel like Bontemps was a pretty like loud, vocal, not supporter of the Celtics, but Celtics believer for all of last year. And I feel like he gets shit on a lot for being like maybe someone who's accused of anti-Celtics bias. But I feel like it's not a bias thing. It's just like I think they're not as sexy. They're not the sexiest team. If there's any bias, that's it.
I think it took people a while to just trust the Celtics, that their old flaws wouldn't come back to bite them. And that was part of it. And then the other part is that their playoff run was so dominant that the discussion about them just turned silly because there was nothing you could really discuss that was easy. It wasn't like, oh, let's talk about this incredible game last night. It was like, is Jaylen Brown actually better than Jason Tatum? You know? And so they had to come up with different ways to try to discuss the Celtics that just became stupid. And eventually Joe Mazzulla called it out. It was that stupid. So I think that's part of the reason why probably the fans think there's an anti-Celtics bias too. And
fans are crazy. Let's just be honest. As
not Josh though. Josh is not.
Josh is crazy like a fox. B. Chris asked, is there a sleeper team in either conference that you think could be really good or a team that could be worse than people think?
I think the Knicks could be worse than people think.
You fucking stole my answer. I think the Knicks are going to be there's so much hype around the Knicks, and the Knicks are going to get so much attention, and everyone thinks because they made the deal that they're going to be much better, but they're just not going to beat teams with hustle anymore. So I'm upset that you said that first.
See, I don't think that's the problem. They have a bunch of like lunch pail players. Those guys are all going to hustle. The bigger problem to me is that they have a whole bunch of guys who are like very similar in NBA status and very similar in skill level and are probably going to want the ball or want minutes. And it's just, to me, they have too many guys that are similar, too similar. There's no hierarchy there other than Jalen Brunson, number one. There's a whole bunch of guys who probably think they're the second best player on that team. And I know a lot of them were college teammates. I just think it's a recipe for people to get just frustrated because they're not getting enough minutes, not getting enough touches, shot attempts, whatever. I just think that could go pretty poorly. So New York is my pick for that one.
I already said it. I think people are sleeping on the Bucks. If you think of the Bucks last season, it was like terrible year. Fired their head coach. Middleton was hurt. Brook Lopez is old and hobbled. Dame was not good. They still won 49 games. And obviously they didn't have success in the playoffs, but Giannis was hurt for the start of that playoff series and completely changed everything. I think with another year of just Dame and Giannis being more comfortable together and Giannis being Giannis, top 3 player in the game, I just think people have created this hierarchy where it's Celtics and then Knicks, Sixers, and then for some reason the Bucks are a tier below that, and that just doesn't make sense to me. I think the Bucks are better than the Knicks, and I think are just up there with potentially with the Sixers. I think potentially better than the Sixers. I just don't hear the Bucks being talked about as like a true contender, and I think they still have obviously they have things to work on the defensive end. I think they made some decent pickups for the minimum, like the veteran minimum. I don't think it's like changing their launching them past the Celtics, but I still think I just remember the series 2 years ago. Playing Giannis in a 7-game series where Giannis is going full Giannis is exhausting, and it takes everything out of you, and it's incredibly hard to defeat him. And the Bucks seem to only lose. I mean, they lost that playoff series in 7, but it's going to be incredibly hard to defeat the Bucks if you have a fully healthy Giannis in a playoff series. And I think people have kind of forgotten about that just because of how poorly they went out last year at the start of the playoffs.
I'm going to give a couple more. I think New Orleans has the potential to be both.
Hot take.
I could see that totally falling apart because Murray, McCollum, Ingram, and Zion, I have no idea how that works. There's just no planet in which that is a good core mix of 4 players. However, let's say Zion stays healthy. Let's say Zion is in better shape, which he appears to be based on photos I've seen. Let's say he could be one of the top 5 players on planet Earth this season. He absolutely could be. And if he is, and then Trey Murphy, and then you've got
Herb Jones,
and those 2 guys like take a step up, and they have plans to either trade or minimize one of the core guys that I mentioned. I just think if everything is managed right and Zion is a beast, they have huge potential, but they could also bust so easily. And then what was my other squad? Oh, I think Phoenix is going to be a sleeper.
Because of Tyus Jones?
Tyus Jones helps a lot. Budenholzer is going to come in and at least bring structure there. You can doubt him as a playoff coach, but that dude coaches defensive structure at least as well as anybody. And he's going to force them to shoot more threes. They're going to be a different team. Their top end talent is still really, really good. And like they clearly had no clue what they were doing, no clue what they wanted to do last year. It was a mess watching them play. But I think it's possible that change a few things and everything looks a lot better.
Sean, you got any sleepers or busts?
Not really a bust because I think the Knicks are the obvious pick, but
we're all over
sleepers. I feel like it's always going to be the Magic for me, and part of that's just because I only really watch them when they play against the Celtics, and they always look so unnecessarily good against the Celtics. But I think that core group is just like getting older, getting better. I could see them being, I can't see them like doing anything too crazy, but at the same time, I look at like that Pacers run from last year, and I feel like that's the kind of thing they could do with the kind of talent they have, and that just the youth and the pure energy, and having siblings on the team that just does it for me.
Are we collectively overlooking the Pacers? Just
Joe Mazzulla isn't. Joe Mazzulla said that was the hardest series they played in the playoffs, and that was like the series should have won 7. We are collectively overlooking them because they're the Pacers, and I refuse to credit Andrew Nembhard that much.
He touched God for a full series.
He really did. We'll see about the Pacers. I think they're still like mid in the East.
Football season is back, and it is your opportunity to get in on the action with Game Time. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out all the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Game Time Picks makes it easier to save on sports, concert, comedy, theater, and more. Any tickets that you want, you can get through the Game Time app. They have all-in pricing. This feature allows you to show the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. Seat views, panoramic views from the seat in the app before you buy. That comes with a lowest price guarantee, or if not, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. And then Game Time ticket coverage. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app today, create an account, and use the promo code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time.
All right, let's take a break here to hear from our sponsor, Factor. Warmer, sunnier days are calling. Feel for them with Factor's no prep, no mess meals. I know personally, at home, myself, my wife, my son Zach, getting mealtime ready is a big chore a lot. So Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are dietitian approved and ready to eat in just 2 minutes. So no matter how busy you are, you'll always have time to enjoy nutritious, great tasting meals. Make today the day you kickstart a new healthy routine. What are you waiting for? There's 35 different meals to choose, more than 60 add-ons to choose from every week. So you'll have a new variety to choose from. You can make every day delicious from breakfast to dessert. Stay fueled with easy, nutritious options. Keep kitchen time to the minimum. That's been huge for us. No shopping, no prepping, cooking, or cleaning up. They're ready for you. Just warm them up and enjoy effortless support for your lifestyle. Choose from 6 menu preferences to help you manage calories, maximize protein intake, avoid meat, or simply eat well-balanced. So head to factormeals.com/greenteam50 and use code greenteam50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month. That's code GREENTEAM50 at factormeals.com/GREENTEAM50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month while your subscription is active. And now back to the show.
This question's from Kurt, the vibe god of the Still Poddable chat. Kurt always brings the positive vibes in chat, always gives the positive messages. And I really appreciate Kurt and what he brings to the Still Poddable chat. If you want to be part of the Still Poddable chat, go to patreon.com/stillpoddable. Subscribe today before the title run, the title defense, or not the title defense. We don't do title defenses here in Boston. We're on offense, like an orca whale or some sort of other apex predator. Kurt asked, what's the deal with the Corrales beef? Need an answer. No skirting this. At least just tell me if he's an asshole or something. He says Still Poddable greater than that other daily pod by run by who will not be named. There's no.
You can name him. You can name him.
There's Corrales. He hosts a Daily Celtics podcast. We host a Daily Celtics podcast. We have multiple voices checking in, giving you different perspectives. He's just yapping away with one voice. Occasionally has good friend Tom Westerholm on there too. But there's no real beef with Corrales. It's just like iron sharpens iron. It's a natural, just like rivalry. You want to like get better at podcasting. We did a Daily Celtics podcast, the Rating Jays. Jay and John were the original Rating Jays with John. In fact, we went daily. We created the entire Locked On Celtics podcast. I'll say it now. We built up that entire audience, John, Jay, and I. But Corrales is a good guy. No beef other than our podcast is way better than his podcast.
I enjoy taking shots at him on Twitter, and most of the time when I do that, we're in the press room together and I'm sitting there laughing with him while I do it. So I'm sorry that it's not real. I wish it was real because it'd be more fun and entertaining. Well, actually, before we started this show, we called Corrales. Before we started Still Poddable, when we were leaving the Athletic, we reached out to Corrales. We're like, is there any way we could do it together, a show again? So we're still on good terms. He's a good guy, good podcaster.
Show's got a lot of ads though. Like if you want to not a lot of ads all up in the episode. Don't want to be learning about Patreon. Come to Patreon. Question from Grant. Actually, is a similar question. Poddable is entering its 1-year mark of existence. When we started the show, what did we expect Still Poddable to be, or do we expect it to be where it's at now? Jay, I had no idea what we were doing, so I don't know how to answer this question.
I definitely didn't expect it to be where it's at now because we had no plans at that time to bring on B-Rob. And so it's much better than I anticipated. It's daily show, which we definitely didn't anticipate, but bringing along B-Rob and adding him as a third guy, like just kind of catapulted us to a different level than I think we all expected. There will be new things coming, and we'll discuss that closer to the regular season as we start making our changes and adding some more content to the mix. But yeah, like the whole B-Rob thing, which came about kind of suddenly, was a huge change and an awesome change.
Yeah, and I think it was just like really cool to have the chat and the people in the community. Sean and I went to Dallas and we're at the NBA Finals under the credential official. I can show it now. NBA Finals credential that says Still Poddable on it. That's insane. Jay and I just made this up. Like it's kind of wild. I still am very appreciative of everyone who kind of like has subscribed and supported us and continues to do so. Does it coincidence that when the year we started Still Poddable, Celtics win the title? Probably. Do I want to risk it by not continuing to do Still Poddable and maybe risk not another title attack? Absolutely not. And so we're very excited for year 2. We hope to keep growing. We hope to keep building this community. Patreon's adding all these new features. Jay King, I saw the other day, is just going live audio and chat. And so everyone should go patreon.com/stillpoddable, subscribe, trying to make it more interactive this year, trying to do new things with post-game podcasts and things like that. And so very excited for year 2. Jay, another question from Gambling Grant, who you are ducking and refuse to do a 3-point shootout challenge with. Shocking.
Just
coward Jay King. Just a cowardly move by Jay King.
I'm ready whenever. Grant, reach out. We'll set it up.
The Celtics had 8 players hit 100 threes last year. Do you think there's a chance someone else joins them on that list, and who is it?
The only one that has a chance is Baylor Shireman if he's like ready from day one.
Not Walker? Lonald Walker the fourth? Might take 100 threes. What if he makes them all?
Yeah, I think it's still Baylor Shireman. Because Lonnie, we know what Lonnie is. We've seen Lonnie Walker in the NBA. Can he shoot? Yes. Will he shoot? Yes, definitely. But will he earn minutes from the guys in the Celtics rotation? I really don't see that happening. But Baylor, I don't know what he is. I don't know how good he is. There's a possibility, a non-zero chance that he's better than anybody expects and will earn minutes from day one and make more than 1 3-pointer per game.
I'm trying to look up what the just the 3-point make totals. Like who, Jay, do you think you can
100 threes is a lot of threes. Making more than 1 3 per game and playing a lot of games is really hard. Especially in the Celtics rotation.
All right, do you think you can name?
What if Luke Cornett just starts jacking again?
You hate that. You said he's not allowed to do it. Do you think you can name the top 8?
Top 8 3-point shooters on the Celtics last season?
3-point makes.
Jason Tatum.
1.
Then it gets hard.
He was 229. The next best was 197.
197 that's like almost 3 per game if you played it. The next is
best percentage on the team. Oh no, second best percentage on the team.
Hauser.
Correct, with 197.
Then third is Derek White.
Nailed it. Wow, you know ball.
Fourth is Jaylen Brown.
No, Jaylen Brown is 5th.
Fourth is Peyton Pritchard.
Correct.
5th is Jaylen Brown. 6th is
best
Al
percentage
Horford.
on the team. Nope, Al Horford is 8th.
Al Horford was 8th.
With best 108 percentage. Makes.
Best
corner
percentage.
King, corner specialist.
Oh, Drew. He shot better than Hauser percentage-wise, huh? Okay.
42.9%.
Drew, Porzingis, Horford.
Yeah. Drew is 42.9%. Hauser is 42.4%. And then there's a big drop-off to Svi, who hit 42 threes. So 100 threes in a game, I think it's going to be tough for Baylor, like just in terms of minutes. Svi got in, and he shot at least 2 threes for every 30 seconds he was in a game, and he only got up 108 last year. And so I think
you'd have to shoot a pretty good percentage on that to make 100.
Yeah, so I think it's tough. I'd be shocked. I'd actually be surprised if they got 8 again. Kristaps isn't going to hit 100 threes in his limited time. He only hit 110 last year, and he played 57 games. And so I think 7 guys, maybe. I wouldn't be surprised maybe Horford took a drop down because he only hit 108, but we shall see. This question's from Will. If the big rotation got dire for a few weeks, hypothetical injuries to multiple guys like Horford, Cornett, and Tillman at the same time, what do you think the team would try to do? Sign a free agent? Anton Watson minutes? Crazy small lineups? What say you, Jay King?
How dire could this big rotation get? Like
he said injuries to Horford, Cornett. So it's just like starting Tillman you're playing Tillman 35 minutes a game.
So you start
20
Tillman.
minutes of Kada. They do have Kada. Like they do have a decent amount of bodies.
They have like injury bodies already, like insurance ready. Maybe you give Blake Griffin a call.
I mean, if he didn't come back last year, you think he's another year older, another year removed from the NBA?
What if at Peyton Pritchard's wedding, everybody was just in his ear? Hey, Blake, we need you, man. We could need you if we have 7 injuries in the front court. We could need you. Be ready.
That's often what you say after some guy officiates a wedding is like, hypothetically, if 6 guys break their femurs, we could do this.
We got a femur question. You might as well segue to that.
Oh no, that's what kind of reminded me. I'm going to try to do all the serious Celtics question before we get into the utter nonsense we have from the Still Poddable crew. This is kind of a similar question about the Celtics center rotation. With the injury, this is from Navadias. Navadias is a sick name. I've just never seen it before. Navadias. The injury of Porzingis, what will the Celtics do when Horford retires? His ability to defend Giannis and Embiid in the East playoffs is one of the most biggest advantages of the Celtics. You are right, and I think they're kind of screwed because Al Horford is my everything. Like what?
You just have to change the way you play. You can't. Even if Porzingis is still around, it's so hard to have 48 minutes of centers who can both shoot threes and play great defense. And so you're probably just going to have to change the way you play. Either get really lucky and find a big who's available and can do both those things, or just change the way you play a little bit. That's it.
That's fair. That's a fair response. I have no takes after that. I'm just saying people will miss Al Horford.
Yes, dearly.
Who got to take the Larry O'Brien to Dominican Republic, which was cool. This question, Jay, Sean, I'm going to open this up to you. I have no idea how to answer it, but I love the level of detail here from Michael. I'd love to hear your take on the current and previous training staff. I always felt familiar with the training staff from warm-up jacket wearing Ray Melchiori to Ed Lacerte. But upon Ed's departure, I feel like the public wasn't properly introduced to Art Horn and knew little about him. Before you knew it, he was gone. And now they have Patrick Chassis. There are a lot of injuries under Horn. Is that why he left? What's the story there? What's your opinion of Chassis? Should we feel confident in him? I feel like he had the best trainer in the league in Lacerte. Should the Celtics fan have the same confidence in Chassis in his program? So Jay or Sean, do you have any takes on the Celtics training staff?
When did our Horn leave?
You're the beat reporter, brother.
I was gonna say, yeah. I was trying to look for that.
When did our Horn leave?
I'm just reading what's put in front of me.
Yeah, I'm looking at the National Basketball Athletic Trainers Association website. It says that Art Horn is the director of organizational growth and team development. So it does not look like he's gone anywhere.
Maybe he's not as involved in the day-to-day training.
Yeah, it could be that. Because, Patrick Chassis is the head athletic trainer and physical therapist. I like his name, so I'm in. That's all it took for me.
Pat's a good dude, too.
Are any of these guys from Australia?
No, obviously they've done a really good job. Yes.
Are both from Australia or just Pat?
Just Pat.
Good day, mate.
What are you laughing at?
I said good day, mate, to myself under my breath, and I thought it was funny that neither of you guys had a reaction to it. I was laughing at that.
I don't know how to answer the question. Their training staff did a really good job this past year managing a lot of people. Obviously, Porzingis had issues that hopefully they'll be able to figure out, but nobody has figured them out to date. And everybody else was really healthy, including Al Horford, who's old, and Drew Holiday, who's pretty old, and it felt like they were very uninterrupted by injuries last season. So training staff doing a good job.
Whatever they're doing to get Jason Tatum to play over 75 games a year, keep that up. I have otherwise feel completely underqualified to be able to evaluate that, which is why I forced you guys to answer that question. All right, branching out a little bit after the basketball. Why is no one in the Northeast a college football fan? It's not a sport. It's not a sport up here. You want me to pay attention to Boston College?
BC might be all right this year. They beat Florida State.
They did. I don't care.
Florida State's my team. I did care.
Why is Florida State your team instead of Boston College?
My dad went to law school in Florida at a school that doesn't have a football team.
What school?
Stetson. And he started liking Florida State, and therefore I was just raised as a Florida State fan.
Here's a question, Jay. Are you going to force certain team fandoms on your son, or are you going to let him have his own agency and choose his teams?
He'll have his own agency.
But there's a world of pain coming if he's not a Pats fan.
I reserve the right to sway his opinion.
That's fair.
Yeah, I mean, how do you not anyway? It's like
just by
you become a Celtics fan because it's like you become a Celtics fan because like your family's watching the Celtics. He'll become a Pats fan because you're watching the Pats. That's just kind of.
There are some kids who like are just so
go the other way.
Just like piss their like dad off as like I'm gonna root for the Yankees. That would be, I think it would be funny if Jay's kid was very oppositional and did that. That's just my opinion. But I feel like he's probably going to like the teams Jay likes.
It's also, I mean, part of it could be, do the Patriots ever get good again? It would probably suck as a kid to root for a team that just stinks all the time.
Yeah, and our kids in the future even going to watch.
They are 1-0 though.
Yeah, Jay's got the scoop on both college and pro football.
I think Grant asked how the Patriots are going to be. Somebody asked how the Patriots are going to be.
Well, tell us.
They asked for my opinions on the Patriots.
Let's hear them.
Which are probably pretty uninformed. Oh, it was Shane. Shane asked how many wins for the Pats this season. I'll go 6. They're going to be better than people think, but not great. Their defense is good. Jacoby doesn't make mistakes. Not like Mac did. Drake, he's waiting his turn. He's probably their best quarterback, but that's okay. They'll save him for later. He'll watch a professional and Jacoby do it. And then next year he'll take over and win MVP.
All right. Important question. I think probably the most important question of the podcast. What colors of the rainbow, which is Roy G. Biv, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, would you assign to the Celtics top 7?
Did you just come up with this?
No, Matthew C. Newman asked this.
So we have to say players are colors?
One player is red, one player is orange, one player is yellow, one player is green, one player is blue, one player is indigo, and one player is violet. Roy G. Biv. You not know your rainbow?
I feel like you submitted this question.
No, this is a brilliant question.
I feel like you bribed someone to submit this question just to mess with me. Because if someone was trying to mess with me, this is the exact type of question they would submit.
Use your imagination, Jay. Okay, I think the biggest question is who's green.
Celtics my brain immediately said Derek. It says Derek White. My brain's just like, it's Derek White is green.
I think that makes sense. I feel like Jason.
If white is green, what is green?
Whoa. Well, white's the absence of all colors, if you really think about it. I think Jalen is red. Jason's blue.
I was going to say the same thing. Yep, keep going.
Yeah, makes sense. That feels pretty obvious. Kristaps is yellow. Orange, I'm going to go with Hauser. Violet is Al Horford. Indigo's Drew Holiday. Nailed it.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's like no disputing that. Jay, you've checked out of this one, but I feel like me and Sean really stepped up and fucking nailed that question.
Who said I checked out? I wasn't going to contribute anything more, but I'm still checked in.
Well, did you agree or did you disagree with any of our opinions on that one?
I don't care.
Seems like you checked out. This question's from Will. As a new Philadelphian, I do live in Philadelphia. Go Birds. I mean Brighton, Hove, and Albion Seagulls when I say that, but don't tell them. Are you aware of the Sixers trying to build in the Chinatown area and the backlash that comes from it? I am aware of that. They're not going to build it. They're trying to move out of like the arenas that are down in South Philly, which is like a weird section of the city. I don't really like going down to the arena areas to go a game. I do think it would be cool to have an in-city stadium, kind of like Fenway or kind of like TD Garden. But if you're going to displace entire neighborhoods, specifically neighborhoods made up of one ethnicity, I feel like that's bad. Came out there be a report that it would just like get rid of thousands of jobs and not really be the job creator that they promised. But I think the question is, what's their thought on potential Celtics ownership change? And like, one, have there been any updates on that? And like, we've heard a lot of talks about like maybe if Bezos buys it, he wants to build a new stadium. Jay, what do you think about that?
I think any new owner would probably want to build a new stadium.
It allows you to make so much more money, and that's why people do things.
And so, TD Garden, it's not owned by the Celtics. They could make a lot more money if they had their own building. The shitty part would be that there's no real place in Boston itself to build a stadium. And so I don't know what the solution would be. Would it be go to Everett? Would it be, and
they should have thought of this.
It would just not be the same experience.
They should have thought of this before they built up the seaport. They had all this industrial land laying around. Instead, they just built a fake neighborhood, which is overpriced in bunk. They should have built a new Celtics stadium there, or a new Patriots stadium, or a soccer stadium. Then they had the chance of all this empty industrial land. Instead, we have a place you can pay $85 to bowl one time.
The other thing about a potential stadium that I've seen people talking about from the Connecticut Sun perspective is like, Packard, you were like gut reaction, Sun should move to Boston, but like there's nowhere for them to play.
Important part of having a team.
Yeah, but like, in terms of someone who would be able to afford to move them up, right? Like a potential Celtics owner having a stadium is kind of the next step to getting the Sun up here, if that's going to be the direction they go in.
And that's the thing, if a new Celtics owner wants to come in, like the Bruins benefit from having the Celtics because then they have someone on all the nights the Bruins don't play. If new Celtics owner comes in, you're obviously not going to have the Bruins. You're going to want someone else to fill out those nights. It's going to be concerts and things like that. That reminds me, I got scooped. Past two podcasts, I promised a scoop of information I had a fucking month ago. I knew that Nick Friedman was going to be the new assistant coach of the Go-Go for a month. And I sat on it because Nick didn't want me to announce it. He said it wasn't the time. About a week and a half ago, I was like, hey, you ready to announce it? And he was like, no, just wait a week. And I was like, as long as I don't get scooped by Shams, I'm cool with that, Nick. And then yesterday, guy from the Wall of Fame, Scotto, has the scoop. And it's just, Jay, how do you do this? How do you deal with this in the news game? It's a lot of pressure, and I feel like I'm a clown right now because I had this for a month, and Scotto just goes and tweets it out.
But you didn't have it.
I had it.
You didn't.
I was on the phone when he got the offer. I was sitting next to him. I had it.
Were you on the phone or were you?
I was sitting next to him while he was on the phone.
Oh.
That's firsthand source. I don't even need a second source on that. I can go. Journalism rule says I can report that.
Did you hear the other side of the conversation, or was it
not? No, I didn't call up anyone on the Go-Go to confirm that they had offered him the job. But just shout out to friend Nick Friedman, re-partnering with head coach Cody Toppert. They won the G League title with RGV. They were together with the Northern Arizona Suns. Cody's a good dude. It's very hard to stay in the league, but I think Nick's going to do well there. And so congrats to Nick on that new gig.
Salute to him. Legend.
All right. Ellie gave us like 12 hypotheticals. We have about 10 minutes left in this podcast. And so I'm going to do my best to pick out maybe 2 or 3 of these that I think are the best. But Ellie, kudos to you that you did exactly what I asked, and you gave us great questions. But frankly, we've just been talking too much ball to do a full deep dive into all of the nonsense you have put on this wall. And so we'll save them, and maybe we'll start doing some smaller content and start answering these questions with some shorter videos. But for today's podcast, try to answer a couple. The first one: if you were to rob a bank with 2 current and 2 former Celtics players, who's your crew? You need a getaway driver, a mastermind, a cat burglar, and a brute, and a fall guy. So a 5-man crew, you are one of those crew. Name your crew. I'm going to make myself mastermind because that's the only way I feel comfortable with the situation. And I don't think I'm qualified for any of the other
You're going to be
positions.
mastermind?
I don't think I can be getaway driver, cat burglar, and brute, and I'm not going to appoint myself fall guy.
Why wouldn't you just be getaway driver?
Yeah.
Seems like the easiest job by far. It's not going to be like
the
movies
easiest
where
job.
there's a chase.
It's a heist. Oh, what do you mean there's not going to be a chase? You're robbing a bank.
I know a guy who robbed a bank.
Well, you should probably bring him in your crew. Is he a former or current Celtics player?
No, and he did it very poorly because turns out they are able to track the money that you spend.
Yeah, no, they've made robbing a bank hard.
And so he used it. He used some of it, and the whatever sequence number, whatever the case, he was identified. It's a bad move. Bad move.
Who do you think the best driver, former or current Celtics is? Chris Tapp's got a lot of cool foreign cars.
Yeah, but Jalen told that story about Chris Kristaps' car just like breaking down on like 90. So not Kristaps.
Also,
Marcus Smart has to be involved somehow.
Marcus Smart, I think, is the cat burglar. The hands man, the guy on the safe, I feel like that works. I think I'm not bringing anyone over 6'5" on my robbery crew because I don't want them to be identified. So it's gotta be guards. Like,
yeah,
maybe a Semi Ojeleye is my brute, my muscle man.
What about Isaiah? Because nobody would ever think he's an NBA player.
Yeah, I think that's a good one.
You know.
And then Ellie suggested as a fall guy.
If your whole crew is NBA players, nobody would think it was a whole crew of NBA players if it's like, oh, one of them was 5'9".
That's a very fair point. I think Isaiah is a good getaway driver. Smart the cat burger. Semi is the brute. We're doing all former players.
We have to do
Peyton Pritchard as the I don't know why he Ellie said if you need a fall guy, they're making Kyrie that, which I think is a good bit. But mastermind, he might go Missoula because he watches the town so often.
And he's plotted all sorts of heists in his head.
Yeah,
it's got to be Missoula.
Yeah.
I think everyone else is too recognizable. I mean, maybe we can get PP in there to just have him hang out, and hopefully if you need a buzzer beater, whatever that may be in this situation, you just point to Peyton Pritchard and he does something really clutch to help you with it. But
I like that.
I think you just got to go all guards. I think it's a small man's game, bank robbery. Another question he asked, what is a felony crime you think you could get away with and how would you do it? Sir, I'm an assistant district attorney. I'm not going to say, even though I just described fully how I'd plan a hypothetical bank robbery, I'm not going to engage in this talk about felony crime or misdemeanor crime. Don't do crime, kids. If you had to live in a fictional universe for a year, like the Game of Thrones universe, Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, which one are you choosing and why? Jay, you always strike me as a big fantasy guy. So
just 1 year?
Yes.
But
what if other fictional universes time works differently, so it feels way shorter or way longer?
I mean, that's a difficult question. Someone says it's just a year. If it's just a year, then it's a year. You know it's a year. There's no surprise.
Stop filibustering. You're just filibustering because you don't have an answer. Because I don't have an answer.
What would it be?
Most fictional universes are like a great time for heroes and an absolutely horrific time for any normal
For the
person.
common man, they're like,
But I'm a hero.
So where do you want to save, Jay?
I don't want to save anybody.
So you're not a hero. That's the least heroic thing you can say.
Where could you go
Jurassic Park? That seems like nothing could go wrong there.
for a year? You might be all right in Jurassic Park.
Well, say if you're just part of the universe of Jurassic Park, but you weren't on the island of Jurassic Park, so you just knew that dinosaurs were over there, but you didn't have to be anywhere near there.
That's a good part because I would not go. I would happily never go over there.
I think I would go to the Forrest Gump cinematic universe. It's just America, but with the existence of one guy who's connected to all of history, and then you have Bubba Gump Shrimp, and then you just had a guy who ran across the United States for 4 years. And I feel like that's safe. And I kind of live in the Forrest Gump universe already in my head at all times. And that's just a little insight into who I am as a person.
I'm going to come up with an answer to this by the end of the show because this deserves a good answer. And I kind of want to be a wizard.
Well,
Like
we got
Harry Potter.
worlds.
Harry Potter. But
Here's a question, Jay.
But it depends when the year is, because you don't want to be during Voldemort's era.
You can't even compare eras. Voldemort didn't play anyone. He actually played Harry, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, Jay, what house are you in Harry Potter? I always forget Jay's a sneaky Harry Potter guy.
Obviously.
You're going to say Gryffindor, but clearly you want to be Slytherin, but you're really a Hufflepuff.
I mean, that's just false. You know that's false. Everyone knows that's false. It's just you're not even being realistic right now.
What are you then? You're going to say Gryffindor, right?
I'm Gryffindor, yeah.
Sean, what do you think Jay is? I think he's kind of a Gryffindor.
I'm stuck on the universe thing. I'm thinking Looney Tunes because no matter what happened, no consequences. Yeah. So I think Looney Tunes. That's my pick.
There's an annoying duck always shooting you in the face, or a rabbit. The Acme company seems pretty corrupt. I don't know if I can live in a world where they're. Looney Tunes universe is a good one. Simpsons universe.
You know what would be tough? Jumanji.
I mean, you just said you didn't want to exist in Voldemort's universe, but you want to exist in the post-Jumanji world? Also, speaking of Jumanji, everyone right now go out and watch the sketch on SNL that was recently about Jumanji, about getting Jumanji'd and what exactly getting Jumanji'd means. It's absolutely hilarious. But Jumanji universe, you're obviously talking Robin Williams Jumanji, not Chris Dwayne The Rock and modern.
I didn't know there was a new one, so yeah.
Okay, old school Jumanji, I think is the best answer we're going to come up with. Final question. We'll wrap it up on this one. This one's philosophical from Ellie. You find a book, and as you keep reading it, you discover it's actually about your life. You get to the point of the book where you are right now reading the book. Do you flip the page and keep reading, or do you stop?
I would like to stop.
Here's the thing: would the book?
But I don't know if I
and then
would.
And then he flipped the page and he kept reading, and then you're just in this cycle of it's just talking about you reading the next page, and then you're just kind of.
Well, that's clearly not the.
Or you're saying it talks about
the
your future
sentiment
life?
of the question. Yeah,
I'm just trying to talk things out, Jay. I'm just trying to explore what would happen here. You can't keep reading it. And how long would it take you to discover it's a book about your life? I've lived 34 years. I think by the age of 6, I would be like, I think this is about me.
I feel like if you did read it, then it wouldn't come true because.
Yeah, it's like a time travel movie where you can't affect what happened before.
Yeah, you would either good or bad. Good, you'd find a way to probably screw it up because if you thought that was destined for you, you wouldn't make it happen. And bad, you would find a way to avoid whatever fate was coming to you.
Yeah, but if it was a true book about your life, you would read about that and then try to make it happen. And then the book would eventually go to how it explain how all of that actually did happen. And you were just confused in the book.
No, it'd be like Adjustment Bureau. Like those
I don't
two
know what
people
that is.
Matt Damon flick. Good flick.
I've heard of him. You know what's a show that's good, Jay, that you put me onto? Slow Horses.
Oh yeah.
Great show. Season 4 just came back. You guys should watch it.
I got the latest episode to watch tonight.
It's a good one.
I would read the book. I wouldn't be able to not read it. If I got up to the page of me on this podcast right now, I'd be like, well, I got to see what the hell happens next.
Also, that would be such a boring book if it was reading about my life and it was just like Thursday, September 12th, recorded an hour-long podcast about the Celtic. Like, what is that book? My life's not that interesting. Sure, there's been moments and highlights, but this has got to be little vignettes rather than just a daily story of my life. So, I don't know.
But your head looks way better now.
It does. And my life is way better now that I've done this hour of podcasting. Maybe I've learned a little thing or two. What if I just started narrating this podcast like I was narrating a story of my life? How would that go?
You have no clue how to end this podcast, do you?
Never have, never will. Press the button.
Still Poddable, still Poddable. The Boston Celtics still Poddable, still Poddable. Oh, yeah.
Slow down from eating and drinking and all that wild stuff.